Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our webinar. We are very happy to be having lots of people join us on this one. We're pretty excited. Before we get started, I know that a lot of people are still logging in, figuring out audio. So if you could answer our quick poll, we'd love to get a feel for who you are. We know that there's a ton of different people who are interested in learning about Division 25 and Speccing integrated automation. So if you can give us an idea of who you are, that will help me make sure that Ryan and Greg can answer the questions and tailor the content to be specific to the different people on this call. So take a few seconds, let us know who you are, what your role is, and we'll make sure that people can get the audio. Also, if you are having any trouble hearing us, please just throw in the chat there. Let me know that you can't hear me. Maybe if you could throw in that you can hear me also, that would be some good positive affirmation that audio is working here. Otherwise, I'm going to sit here with my mouse. All right, so we have a lot of MSIs, a lot of engineers, some consultants, and some of the mysterious other, 27% other. If you are an other, I would love it if you could put into the chat box what your role is. So, hi everyone, now you can see our faces. If you can hear me, please put into the chat box that you can hear me. I'm a little concerned that no one has said anything, so, okay, good, thank you. Thank you for making me feel better about our audio. Thanks, Greg, Josh, Joel, Doug, Mark. Great. You guys are wonderful. Everyone can hear me. Perfect. Okay, so without wasting any more of your time, we're going to get rolling right away. We've done our poll. I am so excited today to be able to introduce you to Greg and Ryan. Greg has 25 years experience in the building systems and controls industry, is very, very knowledgeable about everything we're about to speak about today. He's also a certified commissioning agent, has run his own company. He's currently running business development for IoT and integration at Cochrane Supply. So he is your guy for integration and IoT, which is kind of the world that we live in. So we're really excited to have Greg on the call. Good morning, Greg. Hi.
Good morning. How are you this morning, Monica?
I'm doing well, although I guess for you it's afternoon, so I could just keep the time of day out of this whole webinar. The joy of being on the internet.
Quite the introduction. Quite the introduction.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you deserve it. And then I'm also very excited to have Ryan Hughson, one of my coworkers here at Optigo Networks. He is our strategic solutions manager. Ryan has 15 years of experience, or actually has more than that now, in the industry, starting out with his hands on the ground as a technician and then moving into all different kinds of products and now strategic solutions here at Optigo. So welcome, Ryan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Monica.
All right. And I'm Monica McMahon. I'm marketing manager here at Optigo. I am just here to ask these guys questions, and hopefully I can ask them your questions as well as my questions. So for those of you that may not have joined us on the webinar, we are recording this webinar, so it will be available for you later to revisit or share with any of your colleagues or clients. If you have any questions throughout this whole call, feel free to put them in the question box. We got all of your letting us know that we can hear you, so continue to put information in there and we will answer the questions either in the moment if it's right, or if it's a little bit unrelated, we'll keep it to the end so that we can keep the flow of the webinar. If you have any other questions, let us know. Without further ado, let's do it. So, what is the Division 25? So traditionally, Greg, Ryan, traditionally in this industry, we have all specified Division 23. We've really focused on that division, looked at HVAC. Now we're here today talking about Division 25. What is Division 25?
Well, Division 25, of course, is part of the CSI master format, right? And it's entitled Integration Automation. So that's where all your technology is going to be specified, all the hardware, all the software, you know, to build an IoT and integration platform, okay? So when you're talking about hardware, software, roles and responsibilities of the contractors who are involved, along with the standards for deploying all of those technologies for an integrated platform.
Great.
Sound about correct, Ryan?
Sounds pretty good. I wish when I was a tech in the field, I would use it here, because a lot of times you would step into a job and, you know, it's already handled by another division, and the divisions never even talk to each other. So yes, Division 25 will definitely save some pain on the jobs that you're on.
So just to be clear,
Absolutely.
Division 25 is not just saying, hey, I want a tritium system.
Oh, absolutely not. Because what you want to do is draw a definitive line of demarcation between the traditional controls contractor and the systems integrator. So Division 23, for us, we look at as the place where you will specify all your equipment controls, all your edge devices. And Division 25 is that platform that you build to bring in all the building technologies, whether it's Division 14, Division 26, Division 23, or let's just say lifting devices, let's just say energy. You know, that's where you would specify the integration of all those different building technologies.
Got it. So we saw earlier there's a bunch of systems integrators, a bunch of master systems integrators, quite a few different people on this call. Why should we care about Division 25? Why do we want to bid on Division 25? Why do we need to make that shift?
Well, traditionally, you know, there's been a shift in the ecosystem in our business, right? As soon as building systems started being connected to the internet, right, we needed a new type of contractor who had a different set of skills. So now that contractor needs a division where he goes and bids all of those technologies, right? So the majority of the projects out there for master systems integrators are typically negotiated, right, through service contracts and things like that. Now the specifying engineers are starting to get on board with understanding what Division 25 is, how to specify Division 25, and now you've got a place for those master systems integrators to go and bid work. Because at the end of the day, although there's design build jobs, negotiated projects, at the end of the day, our ecosystem is still built around plan and spec, where we have consulting engineers who design projects, and we have construction managers or general contractors who build projects. So plan and spec is always going to be the foundation of our business. So we need to make sure that we understand Division 25, because it's going to be more prevalent as smart buildings, in order to start requiring that smart building specifications be developed. So now we have to understand integration as an industry.
Right. So in order to make that shift, so it's definitely necessary in this industry to shift from just focusing on Division 23 to having a say in more of the building with Division 25. But in order to do that, it requires a shift in the business. And so a word that I hear you talk about a lot, Greg, and that we use here at Optigo a lot as well, is this master systems integrator. What shift is required in the business to go from being a systems integrator to a master systems integrator, and from bidding on Division 23 to bidding on Division 25? Maybe Ryan, you can get in on this one as well.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
The shift is, I wouldn't say significant, but it does require investment. You have to shift on what you do. So it's no longer can you be the master of your one or two controls vendors and a couple of integration products that you normally carry. Now you have to go get training and learn all of the vendors and all of the integration products, because that is what you're going to be tasked with in the field. You can't control what's going to be integrated on these sites, because you're going to have a smart building that's going to consist of all these different various products, and you have to understand them all. And even more than that, you're probably going to have to pick up a product line that you can use on your own to create some of the integrations that may not exist over the shelf, right? Things like building your own drivers or things like that. So you do have to start to, I would say, elevate your game and learn a lot more. And a lot of system integrators out there do have a certain part of this knowledge, but you definitely have to get more, and you have to be up on the technology, because you are now the go-to, right? There's no one left to ask. You are at the top of that technology chain, and you are the know-it-all in the field.
Yeah, that's interesting, Ryan, because, you know, at Cochrane, Scott Cochrane always likes to refer to the master systems integrators as the controls ninja, right? Because the traditional controls contractor, you know, they had knowledge in building management systems. They had mechanical knowledge, right? They have mechanical knowledge and electrical knowledge. Well, now the systems, 15 years ago are now being connected to the internet. Now this whole new breed of contractor was born where they have to learn about cybersecurity. They have to have an IT background, right? They have to have an IT background, and they also need to know new programming skills like Java and some of those other scripted languages. So the controls industry is kind of taking a major shift. A couple of days ago, I did a lunch and learn at a consulting engineering firm, and I asked the group, were they familiar with the term master systems integrator? And no one in the room knew what a master systems integrator was. So, you know, we're still a long way from getting this specified. And the quicker we can get Division 25 out there to our customers or potential customers and to the consulting community, the easier it's going to be for our clients to find work.
Yeah. I see a couple questions coming in. I am going to address those when the timing's right, so feel free to keep putting those questions in the questions box. But that's great. So there's a lot of work and a conscious shift in your company that is required to go from being an SI and to becoming an MSI. It's not just one day we bid on Division 23 and the next day we bid on Division 25. It's a process that you have to undergo as the leadership of that company. So how do I, as say a facilities owner or someone that's looking at hiring an MSI, how do I find someone that is an MSI compared to an SI? How do I find someone that can be that, as you just said, Ryan, that know-it-all, the person that there's no one above, that is capable of being the sort of owner of all of those different pieces for my building?
Well, I can start here, Ryan. Well, Cochrane Supply, we've trained over 400 SIs and MSIs over the years, and they've been all over the country. So we've got a list of capable MSIs. Depending on the size of the project, the complexity of the project, we can recommend MSIs to put in the specification for sure. There's also a list of what they call Vicon systems integrators. Integration tool that's, you know, the most popular out there right now is Tritium, the Niagara platform. So if you go to Tritium or Vicon.com, you can find a list of certified Vicon integrators there. So there's channels where you can find these master systems integrators. There's been a ton of projects out there. There's a ton of case studies out there that we're very familiar with. So we can definitely recommend those for you.
Yeah, and in addition to that, on our own Optigo website, we have a list of MSIs that's constantly growing as well, ones that we have vetted out personally. So between all three of those, I'm sure we can find an MSI for your area, or hopefully we can add a few more of you out there to our list.
Yeah, and don't forget that Greg and Ryan and their teams have relationships with a lot of these companies, and so they can help you sort of work through the type of MSI. Every building type is different. Maybe you want one that's done your building type or your controls. We work with the same vendor, things like that. They can definitely help you work through those lists with a few more parameters than just a list of names. So a question coming in from Navin that I think is very relevant. How, other than talking to you guys and saying, hey, which one should I hire based on your recommendation, how do you qualify a systems integrator? What are the questions you should ask, or what's the process you should go through to qualify who your MSI is going to be?
Yeah, Ryan, I'll let you take that one.
You'll let me take that one? Fantastic, great question. When you're looking for an MSI, you really have to know how much knowledge they have. Is their business placed on it? They're probably going to have training, certificate, and documentation, and they're going to be carrying some sort of glue integration platform for everything, and they'll be very knowledgeable about any question you have. When you say, what are all the pieces of a smart building and how do they work? If they can't answer the question, they're probably not in a position to deliver one.
Yeah, in addition to that, we have in our office, because we've developed a Division 25, and it outlines the roles and responsibilities of the Master Systems Integrator. In addition to, we've written several RFQs for large enterprise customers. So we know the qualifications. If you're interested in getting a document like that, please reach out to me. I can definitely get you some RFQ language that you can use either in a bid document or a specification.
Great. And we also have, we're just going to throw in a link in the questions box. We have on our website a list that you can download of questions that you should ask an MSI to sort of vet them. So between Optigo and Cochrane, we can definitely help you make sure that you have the right questions, you're qualifying your MSI and getting the right person for the job. So we'll look up that in the top second. So that's great. So you found your MSI. That MSI is going to go bid on Division 25. They're going to specify an OT network. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the term OT network, it's this whole shift from being on the IT network to having your own network where all of the operational technology, the HVAC, the lighting, all of that operational stuff that's bolted to the building is on that same OT network. So this is a newish shift in the industry. Ryan, Greg, maybe Ryan, you can start and let us know, why are we concerned about putting all of our stuff on the IT network? What are the big concerns?
That's a great question. I mean, years ago, we used to put it on our own networks. Right? I mean, you could call it pneumatics, you could call it MSDP, you could call it whatever's been through the past, but it was always networks we could control. And now what we're looking at is we gave that control up, right? And we gave it to IT and said, okay, I've got all these IP-grade devices, let's just put it on the IT's network. They'll know what to do. Well, turns out that was a pretty scary move, because one of the things that happened was all of a sudden we need to punch holes through their firewall to get access to our data. The labor of working with them was painful. We had to, it was a conversation with IT, multiple meetings saying, well, let's talk about what I need from your system. And then you have to go through and explain back that. You have to explain all these different integration pieces of what goes through. You have to explain what holes on the firewall you need, how much access you need, who's going to access it, VPNs. And all of these conversations are having to be had before you even get to put product on the site. Now, when you get product on the site, you have to wait for IT to commission and have their network gear up and running before you can even start to commission and integrate. So that's just one piece from the labor side. The other pieces are what you've actually done is open and widen the cybersecurity footprint, right? So instead of having just IT and all the things that come in from that side of the world, you've brought that into your OT side of the network, right? Anyone playing on the website or accidentally picking up a USB key with a virus on it and throwing it into your building under some computer could get into the OT side of the network. And that's just stuff that we really don't want. So isolating it, keeping it separate between the two networks is key. And that also brings you into your liability aspect. There's just so many different pieces of it that you could just eliminate by having your own network, from your time savings, labor savings, cybersecurity risk, control over the job, and all the different service aspects of the comfort and safety of your different occupants in the building. I say that because if you want to have access to the network, you have to replace a controller, you have to do any work, then you have to work with IT to get you access to those portals or get you access to those devices, change the security, turn it on, turn it off, and have to do all that in order to make it work, right? Isolating all these different networks or isolating these two networks can give you that control back so that you can provide proper service, proper maintenance, proper reliability, and cybersecurity risk to your clients.
So basically, we kind of screwed up and just took the easy route and threw a bunch of stuff on IT, and now we're going, wait a minute, this has gotten out of control.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, and we were part of that initial charge over at Cochrane, but you know, like I mentioned earlier today, we're trying to get the consulting engineers to understand that, you know, if you install an OT network, now you're talking about risk management. You know, it's all about risk management. We've all heard about the incident at Target, where I think a controls contractor supposedly left a laptop open and someone tunneled in through a controller, HVAC controller, and got a hold of sensitive information. I'm more than sure that everyone from the CM to the design engineer was dragged into litigation for that incident. So for us, you know, if the owner is not specifying that you be on his IT network, then why not suggest that a separate OT network be installed, something that's easy to manage, something that doesn't have to be managed by IT professionals, right? Let's install it, keep all of the operational technology on one side that behaves entirely different from IT, right? So we're not talking about email, CRM systems, accounting systems. We're talking about fire protection, lighting systems, anything bolted to the building. You know, our world is totally separate from IT. So if you install an OT network in addition to a front end, which we're going to get into here a little later, that's an entire IoT platform, integration platform, so to speak. So we're really pushing this out to the consulting engineers in our lunch and learn presentations, titled How to Specify Division 25 in Integration.
Great.
Yeah. Great. So there are a few people asking if we're suggesting that we have a separate OT network. I think we answered that, but yes, definitely. That's what Division 25 is all about, and that's why we're here today. So to complement that, I have another question from Steve. When you say a separate OT network, do you mean separate hardware or just a separate VLAN?
That's a great question. You could do both, but honestly, separate hardware is the best way to do it. Keep it completely isolated, right? If anything happens, somebody accidentally modified the rules for VLAN and a device happen to be on a different segment, it's not a place you want to be. If you just isolate it completely, then you can't ever get into that problem.
So if we connect to the owner's network, we just provide an air gap connection and leave it at that.
That's right.
All right. Okay, so now we're starting a bit of a debate and some questions here. Shrag wants to know, then don't you get stuck being IT then? Don't you just become IT?
That's a good question. What actually happens is IT has a huge amount of knowledge. If you look at any particular building, there's a lot of different systems in there, and they all have to work and communicate together. But when you're looking at the OT side, it's not as complex. And the complex hardware and the complex software that's required doesn't need to be as complex. As an example, in an OT network, you use about 10% of the functionality that a traditional IT network would give you. So if you're using IT-grade equipment in an OT network, you're overpaying for it because we don't need to deal with that much stuff.
Okay, hopefully that clears things up for a few people here. So I think we figured out we're talking about having a fully separate OT network, not necessarily the same level, same grade, same devices as, or same network infrastructure as an IT network, but a separate one nonetheless. So let's get to what that actually looks like. What is that concept? So what is the layout? Greg, do you want to run us through the general layout of Division 25?
Yeah, well, like I said, what we've done is we've come up with this concept that we call the brain and the spine, right? So the brain being your front-end IoT integration platform, so to speak, which would include a server, the integration software, and firewall DNS, and a couple other things like power distribution units and UPSs. So what we've done is the concept includes the spine. So the spine would be your OT network, right? And we're going to show the topology and how that looks later. So what we've done is we've gone to the consulting engineers and said, look, if you're going to lay out Division 25, you need to have a process in place. So when you look at this, I guess we call this a flow chart here. We suggest that you appoint a technology coordinator, develop a topology in the IoT platform, put together an integration matrix for drawings, right? and complete the Division 25 specification. Now, for consulting engineers, we know that the control industry has been a moving target for years. So for us to march in with a 80-page or 120-page specification and telling consulting engineers to adopt this would be, a little out of the way. So what we've done is we've taken CSI master format, we've condensed it, and we've put in only the important pieces and parts that are needed for that brain and that spine.
Okay.
Interesting.
Ryan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, the layout's probably a little bit different, but it's exactly as Greg had specified it, right? These are the pieces that you need to put it together. Obviously, there's more to do, a little bit more work. This seems like 10 minutes worth of work, but we know this is probably a lot longer. But he's absolutely right. I mean, you need that technology coordinator. You need that guy to pull in all of the different pieces. He's got to know what pieces are required and how they integrate, right? It's harder just to take random products off the shelf and put it together. So a lot of times when these guys are putting out jobs like this, they're using a standard set of products that they know work.
Right. What we want to do is give the consulting engineers an opportunity to get ahead of this smart building design boom that's going on right now. So, for instance, appoint a technology coordinator. Well, if you're talking about a large project that's going to be that's going to include a lot of integration, and we're looking at a few divisions that are going to be integrated, you're going to need someone to make sure that in Division 14, there's verbiage that ties it back to Division 25. So what is Division 14's contractor's responsibility to the master systems integrator, right? So that verbiage is going to have to be in that division of the specification. So in that consulting engineer's office, they need someone to champion that effort to make sure that all of the verbiage is there, all of the drawings point back to Division 25, and that integration matrix is done. And this simplifies the whole process because for years, we've seen specifications go out there, and we've got a lot of MSIs on the line, and I'm sure they can attest to this, that are just regurgitations of the large controls contractors' specifications. So the Honeywells, Siemens, and Johnsons of the world, the consulting engineers have taken their specifications and they put them out there. Well, what they've done is they've given their owner a closed system. We want to put the power back into the consulting engineers' hands so that they know how to specify true integration. So if we, and I know we're going to talk about the topology here shortly, and that kind of lays out our entire concept.
Let's just go there right now then.
Great.
So topology, what is this system topology? Walk us through. And I see a lot of questions coming in, and we will get to those, don't worry. So, but let's dig into this topology first.
Okay, so if you look at the red dotted line there, that represents the brain. And then that circle represents the OT network, okay, that Ryan spoke about. So when we talk about Division 25, we have to build that integration platform, right? So if you look at the brain, it includes a server, along with the software, which you see as Niagara 4. There's a firewall, DNS. This can be mounted either in a rack, on a wall, or in a control panel, a traditional control panel. And what we've done is we've passed this along to a few consulting engineers, and like I said, they love the concept. They understand exactly what's involved in building an IoT platform. So this is your platform. If you were looking at a system topology and you were going to put it on the drawings, this is your platform. And the only thing you need to do next is start adding the integration systems along with the gateways required for those systems based on the communication method, whether it's BACnet, MSTP, or whether it's LAN, or whatever the case. You're going to need certain gateways unless these devices are IP devices. So let's go to the next slide and show an entirely integrated topology.
There you go.
There's all the pieces.
Easy.
There you go.
Looks cool, right?
There you go. Yeah. So we know that the controls world along with some of the equipment manufacturers out there, and I'm speaking of HVAC, but lighting and also, they're starting to go to IP-based controllers, right? So we know that as IP-based controllers start to become more and more prevalent, we're going to have issues as an industry or as an ecosystem with dealing with owners' IT departments, right? They're not going to let us put all these IP devices. Let's just say you have 100 VAV boxes. Well, you can only daisy chain so many IP-based VAV boxes to tie into someone's network. So what we suggest is you provide a separate OT network. Like if you look over here to the right side where you have Division 2023, HVAC, I started to call it 15900. I think I would have dated myself, but Division 23, where you have a gateway there, which is your Vicon, Jace, and then you have IP devices down at the bottom. So if you look at this entire topology, this is totally separate from the owner's network. If you look right above the Jace to the right, there's an air gap connection there if required by the owner. So this kind of topology, I believe that any MSI can look at this along with the Division 25 specification that shows the pieces and parts and figure out exactly what they need to bid. This is from a job. This is from an actual job. And this is part of the Lunch and Learn presentation that we're actually taking out to consulting engineers to educate them on how to put together an IoT platform.
All right.
You got a couple questions rolling in there?
I think everyone's still kind of thinking about it.
I don't think the system topology is really any different than what your typical job looks like. This just shows it wrapped up in a proper and well-facilitated way, right? A lot of times, all of these pieces, they're all over the place. How many times have you seen duplicate networks? One for fire, one for access, one for CCTV, one for HVAC, one for lighting, one for whatever disparate third-party networks are out there. And if you stand back from not a single contractor, but from a global one who's overseeing the whole job, it's ridiculous to have 8 or 15 different networks running throughout the building. And that just doesn't make any sense. So bringing it back to one so you can do the integration properly makes a lot of sense. And it saves a lot of time, a lot of labor, and a lot of cost.
And a lot of banging your head against the wall. A lot of flat floor.
You got to find the good concrete, right?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, and you don't have the painstaking task of asking for all these IP addresses from IT.
Exactly, yeah. They'll get it to you in a week.
And each group individually, right? Exactly. So now you've got 10 or 15 different contractors all trying to coordinate with IT.
Right.
And part of our specification in the roles and responsibilities section for the MSI, it spells out very definitively what his role is as far as coordinating with each one of those disciplines. And if you specify it right and you do have that person in your office as the champion for providing what I like to call the glue, then each and every one of these disciplines will have specification language that allows them to coordinate with Division 25 and the MSI. And then it's also listed in a integration matrix.
Great. So maybe that kind of leads into my next question is, can you expand a little bit on the people that are involved in this process and what are the different roles that they play? I know you've talked a little bit about sort of the one main person who owns it all, but what are the different roles that are getting involved in this specific topology?
Well, let's look at this from a consulting engineering standpoint. You would probably have the mechanical engineering group driving this entire process, right? Because Division 25 will probably be the responsibility of the mechanical engineer. Or if you have a large enough firm and you have a director of technology or a technology department, maybe they would drive it. But for the most part, it would be mechanical. And if you look at this topology, you would have everyone from the electrical contractor, security will fall under electrical for the most part, fire alarm will fall under mechanical. So lifting devices, Division 14, I'm not sure. I think that may be electrical. or it could be someone on the architectural side. But those would be the people who would actually be involved with laying out and specifying a project like this if you look at this topology. So you're talking mechanical, electrical, and possibly someone on the architectural side when you're looking at Division 14. But it's really a matter of making sure that each and every one of those specification divisions has the proper language to point them back to Division 25 and the appropriate mechanical drawing that shows that integration matrix in addition to this topology. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me, but I've lived in this world for a little longer than probably some of the people on our webinar, so it better make sense to me. If it doesn't make sense to you, though, you can use the questions box.
There you go.
Does it make sense to you, Ryan?
Absolutely.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, and this is a new concept to the consulting engineering world. I won't say it's a new concept to the MSIs that are on the line right now. Like I said, this topology is directly from a project, and every MSI that looked at the project, you know, they thought it was clear and concise as far as the specification and the drawings were concerned. So we think we've got a pretty good concept. Now the issue is, or our challenge is, to roll it out there to the consulting community so this can be in the plan and spec arena, opposed to, you know, MSIs, developing relationships with owners through service contracts and things like that. That's a very good way to get work, but, you know, there's other ways to, you know, skin a cat, and plan and spec is here to stay.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Okay, so a couple people are asking things like, how do I get more information? How do I contact Greg? Because Greg's super awesome. I may have added that last part. How do I get my hands on Topology? So we're going to pop a quick poll in. If you want more information, just say yes, and Greg or Ryan will reach out to you, and they can make sure that you can get everything that you need to be successful. So feel free to answer that. Meanwhile, while you're doing that, I'm going to start getting some of these questions because we have quite a few. So question here, and one of the more general ones, what are you seeing that the best consultants or engineers, consulting engineers are doing that others should follow, or others should aspire to? So what's setting apart those people that are really great? And that's a question from Max. Thanks, Max.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, what are you seeing some of the best consultants, the best engineers are doing that others should aspire to, others should follow?
I could take a quick shot and just follow up there, Greg, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go right ahead, Ryan.
A lot of these good consultants and the engineers that are out there, they're on the edge of technology. They're researching, they're bringing people in, they're trying to learn and understand what's coming, what's out there, and where the industry is going. Right? There's a whole group of, I would say, old ones that sit there and do copy-paste work. And we really need to be in front of these good ones. And they're going to, I would say, they're going to trade shows, and they're going to learn, and they're finding out the latest and greatest technology. Right? They're keeping up.
Absolutely. And I'd like to add to that, Ryan. I know that, you know, I've done probably 12 to 15 lunch and learns from June to present. And what we're finding is a lot of consulting engineers are considering starting technology departments, right? So I mentioned that a little earlier as far as the whole IoT and integration boom here and smart building direction that everyone's going. You need a technology department. You know, you need someone, even if it's one person who's the director of technology, you need one person at least to keep up with the technology for building systems. I talked to an engineer one day, and I remember him telling me, you know, Greg, look, we treat controls like fire protection. We put together a performance spec, and we send it out there, and we just hope that Honeywell, Johnson, or Siemens gets it and makes it work. Well, for me, being a former consulting engineer, that's not the right way to attack things. You know, this isn't as difficult as people may think. We've put together a pretty comprehensive guide spec for Division 25. We feel very confident that it's clear and concise and gives you everything you need to specify integration. And with a topology like this, it's easy to understand. It's easy to identify what submittals you're going to need. It's easy to identify what roles and responsibilities need to be filled out when you go out into the field. So I think that if you adopt this Division 25 and our concept, I think it'll make it a whole lot easier on those larger projects that require integration.
Yeah, I agree. So a question here from Robert. How can you establish security standards when IoT has no standard yet? Manufacturers are implementing their own designs for IoT data interchange. How do you make sure that it's all secure?
The best way to do that is just best practices, right? And from our OT side of the network, we have a series of best practices that'll tell you how to lock things down. We, as others as well, put in different security protocols, such as our one-click secure feature to lock down specific ports and whatnot to the system. But it's more process than product, right? And that's how you're going to win every time. And obviously, as anyone knows in cybersecurity, the more layers of protection you have, the better off you're going to be. But those are still in process. Intelligent buildings is one who, that's what they do. They go into systems and they go into buildings and they create process. And obviously product is all part of that. But put those things together and you're going to have a well-secured building.
Awesome. Greg, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think that installing an OT network probably would combat a lot of your security issues, because now you've got a completely closed network that only has operational technology, right? We already know that these VAV box controllers and other controllers aren't that secure. So if you install a separate OT network and you keep it away from the owner's sensitive information, right, like credit card information, social security information, things like that, then I think that's half the battle.
It is, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and yeah, this is really the first step. A big part of why we do this is cybersecurity. It's one of the main reasons.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I do have more questions here, but I also realized we should probably go through this integration matrix of some of the different divisions. Greg, do you want to walk us through this matrix?
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, and it's just another tool that we suggest or recommend to the consulting engineers to use to put on their drawings. Any of the consulting engineers that are on the line, they do know that the more you put on the drawings, the better off you are. So, although we feel very confident that the specification that we put together is pretty tight, we still do want to put a topology on the drawings. You do want to put an integration matrix. So if you look to the left, it just lists some of the systems that are being integrated, shows you the specification sections where they can be found, talks about protocol, and then it talks about the roles and responsibilities. So the master systems integrator, here's his role as far as lighting concerned, right? Integrate lighting controls data in the IoT platform. Now, it will be a little more in-depth than that, but I think you see the gist of it. You put this on the drawings, but then you tell the lighting control contractor in Division 26 to see integration matrix for more detail or responsibilities as far as your role in integration is concerned, right?
Right.
So it's just a simple tool to put on the drawings to just give the contractors who are involved more information.
That's what we're all about. We are here. Greg is here. We are here to give you more tools so that you can bid on this on Div 25. Okay, so I have a really great question from Josh here that I have never heard asked. So I'm excited to hear the answer to this one. Now you're about to scare you both.
Do we have the answers?
You guys have the answers to everything. Do you think that your traditional or your current staff can effectively sell the MSI scope? Or do you think that you need new or different sales staff to sell this MSI concept and to sell Div 25?
That's a great question.
I know. Thanks, Josh.
That is a great question. You know, I think at the heart of it, these guys could sell it, right? I think they have been selling it. I just don't think it's been structured enough to present it in a clear and concise way. So I think absolutely all of your staff can definitely raise up to this level. I don't really think it's entirely that complicated. And now that the structure has been provided, or at least something you could carry, it makes it a lot simpler.
Yeah, and what happens is, and remember that, you know, this is going to take the consulting engineering community to really, really push this out. Like I told you, I walked in the consultant's office and did a lunch and learn, and no one had ever heard of a master systems integrator. You know, so I actually went as far as pulling it up on the internet, right? Did a quick Google search and showed them all the information that's out there as far as master systems integrators are concerned. The first step is getting consulting engineers to start specifying it the right way. You know, specifying a true open system, right? Using Division 25 and drawing that firm line of demarcation between the edge devices and the integration platform. Once you do that, it sells itself because you're going to pull out, you're going to breed, you know, master systems integrators and contractors who can actually do this work. So that's why we're selling consulting engineers right now. That's one of our main focus.
Yeah, and I think experienced salespeople are salespeople. They are there because sales is a skill, and you're giving them a new item that they can sell, a new thing to their sort of sales toolkit that they can now offer their customers to solve their customers' pain points. So it widens the things that they're able to sell. It widens the people they're able to sell to, and they continue using their skills as salespeople to sell this new product, essentially. So I think yes, but it will require some training and some knowledge. Sorry, I'm getting all excited and adding my own information. Okay, great question from Kent here. If there's a Div 25 contractor providing a server, does that relieve the other subdivisions from creating graphics for their system?
Absolutely. In the topology that you just saw, the master systems integrator will be responsible for all the graphics. That's where you get your commonality. That's where you get all of your glue, so to speak. So in other words, Division 23, they will program their devices and make all those points available for the Division 25 contractor. So the way we like to specify it is we specify that entire OT network, the front end, right, the brain and the spine, and the gateway devices, okay? So now all you need to do as a contractor from Division 23, 26, or 14 is to make those points available to the master systems integrator. So the master systems integrator will be responsible for integrating each and every one of those divisions. They will be responsible for the server. They will be responsible for the graphics. They will be responsible for setting up master scheduling. They'd be responsible for all those alarms. You know, any of that data that's to be aggregated at that front end, the master systems integrator is responsible for it. And that includes graphics and tagging and all that good stuff. And that's all in our specification, by the way.
Great. No small job, that being the MSI.
Well, the work's there, right? The work was just spread out before, so now it's all tied together and in one spot, so it definitely helps.
All right, so Doug wants to know, how would you handle situations where the controller interface needs to be scanned before a system gets installed, when most control companies aren't willing to take the time to scan their devices?
I'll let you take that one, Ryan.
I knew you. Yeah, down in the weeds. Honestly, I think you're just going to have to put language in the specification to make sure that's presented to you, right? To make sure that, hey, I can't do my job until you do yours, and that's clearly stated here in the specification, and give yourself some power to defend it. Obviously, with good, close working relationships with these guys, as an MSI would have with the contractors that are on site, then you can preempt that a little bit. But ultimately, it could be a problem, but it can easily be avoided.
Yeah, and another thing is, you know, if you have a project that's large enough to have an MSI on the project, then 9.9 times out of 10, you're going to have a commissioning agent also, right? And one of the jobs of the commissioning agent is to make sure that a lot of that stuff is done, that a lot of that glue is provided, that a lot of those coordination items are addressed. And that's what commissioning meetings are actually for. And one thing I like to do, if any MSI is out there would like to get a hold of our master specification or our guide specification, we'd be willing to share it, and you please feel free to give us some feedback on it, because you guys are the ones who will actually benefit and get work from this thing being out there. So if you take a look at it and you see some things in there that you'd like to address, please give us some feedback. We'd be happy to hear it.
Great. Okay, so this question, it's a long one, so I'm going to attempt to read it out correctly. As an MSI, when you're integrating a number of IoT devices and platforms for clients, now that it's found, there's always a challenge to get through to their IT department to understand that BMS IoT doesn't always follow their security and network admin protocol. How do you deal with that sort of communication and platform difference?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. Dealing with IT obviously creates those pain points. Having your own separated, isolated network, your OT network, would alleviate a lot of that pain, because it's going to be your sort of protocols that you're going through. But in order to bring IT in and following their protocols, it's really about bringing them to the table as early as possible if you're stuck in the owner's network, right? Make sure they know what you're going to do, make sure you know what the limitations of the device are, and the device is going on the network anyways, right? IT doesn't have the power to say no because it was already specified in the building. However, the sooner they know about that, the happier they're going to be. And these guys are happy to be brought to the table early. And it's one thing to say, I'm going to work with you to put the device on. It's another thing to say, here's the device, make it work.
All right.
I totally agree. And that's why we're pushing OT networks. That's a perfect question.
Well, that seems like a great question to end on then. I don't see any more questions. If you do have more questions, definitely reach out. If you let us know that you wanted to chat more, then we will reach out to you as well. But we are always here. Greg, Ryan, living this stuff every single day, and they're really excited to talk to you, to share it, to share the spec, to get feedback, and to help you become that MSI, to bid on Div 25. It's a very exciting time for our industry, and there's a big shift that's happening. It's a cool opportunity to be part of it. Ryan, Greg, any last words?
Yeah, I'm super excited to be a part of this shift, and we're in a position to drive it as well, right? We know Div 25's been out there for a lot of years. It was out there when I was in the field, so it's not new.
Absolutely.
But let's leverage it, right? Let's leverage it and drive it forward and create new business and be successful.
Absolutely, I totally agree, Ryan. And at Cochrane, we're here to help. We're pushing it hard in the Midwest to the consulting engineering community. I'll say it. I've said it once. I'll say it again. That's the foundation of our industry. Planet Spec works. So the sooner we can get it out there and get it adopted, and get consultants to start using Division 25, like you said, we're going to generate more work for our industry. Yep, I appreciate everyone coming on. Hopefully this was helpful.
Thanks so much. When you close the webinar, there'll be a quick survey. We'd love it if you'd fill that in so we can make sure we keep giving you more useful webinars. Otherwise, go forth and specify Division 25. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.